Virginia, and I'm doing another one of these live streams. Today, I'm going to be talking about sort of a combination of things, but getting out of a slump slash, setting goals for the new year and things like that. Basically, I am going to start doing these weekly, I think. They're very informal, but I like the format of them a little bit better, and I get to talk on things a little bit more in depth. So to some extent, I feel like they're a little bit more useful than like super edited videos. Next week, though, I will not be doing Monday because it's a holiday. So I will release the time and day that I'll be doing next week's. But yeah, basically, I'm talking about getting out of a slump. I don't want to say like slump, like it has to be like this big giant thing. It can be just trying to like change patterns, in life in general. So yeah, I basically am, I've made a video on this before, right? On getting out of a slump. And that was because we were coming off of, like the 2020, it wasn't in 2020, but we were coming off of like the whole, freeze in place sort of lifestyle that we were all living. And then right after we came out of that, my industry, which is the entertainment industry, the film industry, went on strike. So even though I was ready to like get back into it, and even though my friends were ready to get back into it, there was like a hard stop. Yeah, like immediately, like we're not going to be doing anything else. You know what I mean? So with that, I decided to make some changes, and I feel like actually it was sort of the best thing for me. And I don't think it would have happened if it had not been for the strikes and things like that. So I had always wanted to learn about cars. Sounds random. I promise it would make sense if you had like my whole background. But anyway, I wanted to learn about cars, and so I went and I decided at our local community college to take a class. It was just an Auto 100 class. But I had taken classes at this community college before, and I knew that I could also take like dance classes, ballet classes. So I signed up for an auto class and I signed up for a ballet class. I had been sitting for like 2.5 years trying to do dance at home and like failing. I don't want to say failing. Like I did it sometimes, but if you don't do it consistently, it kind of doesn't add up to much. And so I decided to also sign up for the ballet class. So basically, when I got there, you meet new people, and the teacher for the class was like, we have all these other dance classes. She was very involved in getting more people into those classes. So she said, why don't you just stop by and show up? And I asked a lot of questions, and all of her answers were like, just show up, just show up. So, yeah, I mean, I think that is sort of the thing, is like, just show up. And then now, if you don't know, I've been taking a ton of dance classes. At one point, I was dancing 5 hours a day. So, obviously, best shape of my life. And I learned a lot of new styles. And it brings me back to what I did already, which was I was a theater major, and I used to dance and I used to sing. And yeah, like all of that just slowly like drained away. And so now I'm very happy to be back in it. And I think it also brings creativity to any of the film things that I'm doing and helps me in that regard as well. So basically, in terms of getting out of a slump, like change is hard, and it's not something that we're built to want to do because it's kind of painful, and we don't want to do things that are painful. But it is something that's obviously necessary and makes you feel better on the other side of it. So I knew that like I needed to come up with something. I just wasn't going to sit another year or 6 months, really an indefinite period, because we didn't know how long it was going to go. And it did go much longer than people expected. And ironically, too, while we were doing that, like I signed up for other things. I signed up for a lot of things, and I didn't know what would like stick. So the dance stuck, and some of the other things that I put in place when I decided, like, okay, I'm going to start making some changes, those things didn't seem to have relevance, but then a year later, or like a year and a half later, they actually then started to like show their results, and I was like, oh wow, I'm really glad that I did this. So I think that it's something that like we have to think through, but not too much, honestly, because I think because it is so painful to do, to be like, I'm just gonna do. I mean, and dance wasn't even like new for me, but um, it was in that form. I'd always taken like one-off ballet class, not one-off. It was part of like college, but I'd taken ballet classes, sort of just an hour and a half of dancing, right, on the regular, and then maybe I'd add in like a couple of extra classes a week, but never like dancing at that intensity. I don't want to say at a professional level because I'm not a professional dancer, but sort of at a professional level in that they practice and rehearse all day, all the time. So, yeah, and that sort of got me started on a trajectory to trying a lot of new things and making a lot of new changes. And so, yeah, that helped a lot. Um, I have to say, because now I have been doing this, I guess I'm starting to come up on 2 years of this like change, like with taking the classes. Um, I have sort of started to get into another routine, and I'm not a routine oriented person, I would say. And I think that's a big thing is like knowing yourself. I said this in my last video, but knowing yourself and knowing like, do you like routines? Do you like change, or do you like sporadic things? And I am sort of a sporadic person, and I could try harder to fight that and build a routine, but I think it's probably better for me if I just go with what's natural. I'm a person who can spend like a week sleeping on the couch easily. Easily, I can spend a week sleeping on the couch. So when we were in lockdown, I had no problems. Honestly, everyone was like, oh, I have to stay at home and do nothing. And I'm like, I can do that. I can read a book, I can watch TV, I can come up with 100 million things to do on my own. Like, I just can. But on the flip side, I'm also a person who will go out and work a 14-hour day willingly, which is where the film thing comes in. And a lot of people, they're like, when is this day going to be over? Like, how long are they going to shoot? Why are they still going? And I'm like, and it's like, this is how it works. So, yeah, it's weird because I will like kind of like burn the candle on both ends, and then I will also just do nothing for a while. So like fits and starts. But that's sort of how I like things. When they start to get too routine, I feel like I'm maybe not making as much progress, or like I'm stagnant. So that's just how I am. A lot of people are very routine. I'll give an example of someone that I know, like my dad. He is very routine, probably partially because military, but it's like, get up at this time, do this, do these things, be on time, it's bedtime, go to bed every day. Um, that's just personality, and mine definitely doesn't work like that. I've just sort of started waking up regularly at the same time every day, which is really weird for me because it's totally unprompted. Um, but anyway, yeah, so I think it sort of has to be something where you don't say, like, oh, I'm going to like do like these really difficult things and make these big changes. And I don't think goals should be set until I think the root of why you want, like why you feel like you're in a slump, and like what a slump really feels like, and all of those kinds of things. I think jumping into something that you feel like is rewarding and something that you're curious about or interested in is sort of a good way to start. It's a small step, but it will feel like a big step, but it's also like it is a step to the next steps. I've used that word a lot now, but that's sort of how it works, at least for me. And I feel like that is sort of helpful. Obviously, I had to sign up for the class and like do like the enrollment thing and, all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that. When I did sign up for that class, I also signed up for Korean language class because I'd always wanted to learn Korean and tried to learn Korean. And I signed up for that. That was free. You still have to like email someone, but and show up to their little, like they have the classes every week. But that was a little bit less of an investment, but still like a change toward meeting a few new people and like learning some new things. So I think before you can feel like you've gotten out of a slump, you do have to change your routine. Um, and you do have to like take a little baby step in that way. The reason that I feel like I'm sort of starting to re enter a slump, other than like I said, I've got sort of a routine now, is I feel, I don't want to say like I've maxed out like what I've been doing, but once you get to a certain point of learning, you'll hit a plateau, and then you need another push to continue past that plateau, to continue growing. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And it's a big thing in any field, and it's a big thing in like any type of learning or any way that a person learns. You're going to hit like plateau, and then you can either like drop off or you can keep going. And the idea is to keep going. Um, like something that I did, which I had always wanted to do amongst these other classes that I took, because I signed up for dance, but I also signed up for theater classes. Not classes, sorry. I signed up for a play at the theater. I signed up for business classes. My previous video, starting a business, something I'm really interested in. And I was like, well, while I'm here, why don't I learn about business even more? Like, because there are things that maybe YouTube doesn't cover, stuff like that. So I signed up for theater classes. I also took piano, which I'd kind of always been wanting to do, and I knew it was something I couldn't teach myself, and I didn't want to learn wrong. I don't mean to be like harsh, but like yeah, the like YouTube tutorials where they just tell you which like key to hit is, yeah, that will stunt your growth in terms of piano. It's like a shortcut, but then also you won't know how to do all the things that you should be able to do. So piano actually was, I would say, a huge stepping stone, right? Because it taught me not just like how to start playing, but how to read music, which is something I had never been able to do. And reading music then goes back into what I am currently doing, which is I took the painful step of auditioning for a musical. Yes, I auditioned for a musical, so I'm rehearsing for that right now. I hadn't done a musical in a long time, and I had wanted to do one. And the play that I did here at this community college was not a musical, it was just a straight play, which I think was a good first step. It's like, okay, first, you know, you do a little acting, then you do a play that's regular, and now I have to act with also the singing and then also the dancing that I've been building up towards, you know what I mean? So, yeah, right now I've got like, I feel like a good handle on the dancing, and I'm able to put that into my musical. And then also, because I took piano, I can now read music, which anyone who knows musicians, if you're a singer and you can't read music, there is a lot of judgment. Even if they say there isn't, you can see it in their face. There's so much judgment. But yes, it's great. I can figure out what the music is, figure out what key it's in, all that jazz. And it's been very exciting. So now that I have pushed myself to be in this musical and I've committed to it, it is sort of a big thing. And I was very hesitant. I sat outside the audition for a long time. Okay. And I didn't go in because I was like, oh, this is a huge commitment. But I finally did it, and I'm very glad I did it. So that's what I'm saying. Like, something that I put in place a year ago when I started learning piano, I was like, well, I know I'm never going to be able to like play like a professional, right? But I didn't even think about the fact that it would teach me how to read music, and that would come in handy for when I finally decided to go back and do a musical, which is where I started. I started in musicals. That's what they put children in usually, and like I enjoy them immensely, and I didn't get to do them in college. So, yes. That is what I've been moving for. But those were small steps, and I think now I am at the point where I can finally start to set goals. You see what I'm saying? Like trying a lot of different things. And I know that time and money are constraints on those, but trying a lot of different things and then figuring out where you actually want to go. Because if you set a goal even if you like go toward that goal, it may actually not be your target. And I think that's obviously also a waste of time to go toward a target that you don't even want to go toward. Um, so that's why I think that first I tried a lot of things, and now I'm going to start setting goals to keep me from sliding back into a, a slump or a period of stagnation. You know what I mean? And stagnation's not always a bad thing. There do need to be times when life is like stable and comfortable. However, we are in a period just like in our lives and in our family where it's not going to be stable. And so instead of trying to force it to stay that way, I think it will be better if I make movements. This sounds like way too complicated. Make different movements so that I can target what I want, so that I'm going in the direction, no matter what happens, that I want to go in. But yeah, and everything obviously will change. I'm like a very flexible person, which is good. If you're not that flexible, I understand that it will be hard, but that's why I say like baby steps, like little things, and try not to let the little thing make you forget. Like, I don't use it as a band-aid is what I'm saying. Like, don't let it make you forget that you actually wanted to make changes, or like that you felt like you were in a slump. For those who can journal, I think that is why journaling is so recommended, because you can see like a record of what you wanted and what you thought. I can't journal. I just can't. I've tried. I really have. But not a journaler. But I do have like clip-its and post-it notes and notes on my phone, which I guess are sort of an equivalent. So if I look back at an old note, I'm like, right, I had that on my to-do list and I never did it. Or I had it on my to-do list and I accomplished it, but I didn't accomplish, like, I don't want to say didn't accomplish, but like my priorities have changed or whatever. So yeah. And obviously like money is a big thing. That's why I talked about first starting like a small business, or not on a small business, but starting an online business and getting something else going so that you're not reliant upon one particular job or one particular thing, something that's a little bit more flexible. Being more flexible in this day and age is like always helpful. And I also, to anyone who wants to start a business, recommend putting in as little money upfront as possible. Especially with online, like you can start that for free. Literally, you can start it for free and start selling things online for free. So that's the way to do it. But also, something I did want to mention actually is in terms of money and saving money, because a lot of people have money goals or feel like they're in a money slump. You know what I mean? Um, I do recommend two things. There are two things that I feel like have really helped me, and one of them is a bank. So I will mention that one. I've got it down in the description. And Ally Bank is something that I feel like was super helpful. For one, it's an account that has no fees. Okay. It has no monthly fees like the maintenance ones, and they're not trying to fee you for transferring money to your own accounts. So that keeps me from spending extra money. And then in terms of running a business or any types of savings, it also gives you interest per month. So if you put money in the savings account will actually grow more than 0.1%, like most banks, which is nothing, honestly. Unless you have thousands of dollars in that account, it's nothing. So I feel like it's been very helpful for me saving money and for me using my business funds. I don't know why I did quotes. They are business funds. For me using my business funds appropriately, seeing where they're going, seeing them growing, being able to use them for other business expenses, and then shift them over into the savings account so I can watch them grow. So these things I feel like are very helpful. We, especially in this specific country, like do not save enough. We do not save enough money. Our expenses are very high and it makes it hard to save money. But also just sort of our lifestyles. We're going to take the $5 and spend it on coffee, or we're going to take the $100 and buy the newest whatever, whether it's useful to us or not. And those types of things can start to eat away at you, especially if you're not like conscious of them. And those things will make you feel like you're in a slump. So I have to recommend saving and using high interest accounts, high yield interest accounts, um, because I feel like they help put things in perspective. And yeah, just they made me more responsible. I would have to say. It's not that I was being irresponsible, but when you can't see things and you can't track them and you've got a bank like pulling maintenance fees out of you every month, it just makes it very difficult to be responsible. So that sort of forces responsibility in that regard, and that really helped me. So I've got a link to them down in the description. Yeah, it's a referral link. So you should be able, I think you'll get a little bit if you sign up for one of them. I'm not sure of the amount, so I don't want to clarify. Um, and I will get a little bit also. I have to be transparent about that. But I feel like it was a very useful account for me, and I've really enjoyed having it. And then also another thing that I wanted to recommend, which I also have a link for down in the description, is the Upside app. So there are a lot of apps like this, but the Upside app is basically that when you make a purchase, especially on gas, you can get money back for that purchase. So if you're a commuter, this is especially useful. I have now started commuting because of my rehearsals. So I am able to get money back on every time I commute. And there are a little like things you have to figure out about the app. So basically, you have to click that you want to claim the gas before you go get the gas, and then you have to have a receipt that you upload onto the app, and they will give you money back for that. Now, I have a rewards thing. So to be clear, if you have a rewards at your gas station, it will take the difference basically. So if they offer you 10 cents, but then your gas station has been giving you 5 cents, then they'll give you the 5 cents difference. You know what I mean? So if you get like 50 bucks of gas or whatever, they'll give you 5 cents off on every tank instead of 10 cents off on every tank, or every gallon. So yeah, but it adds up quickly if you make, $3 to $5 per purchase of gas, and you get five like tanks of gas, then you've basically made another tank of gas. So all of these types of things really help with saving. And I've got the link to the Upside app down in the description. But there are also other apps that are possible where you can save money and like get cash back without having to do that credit card thing where you get cash back, but you may have a credit card payment if you don't pay it in time, which is a problem. So I like these apps because they're a straight one-to-one. You make the purchase, they give you the money. You make the purchase, they give you the money. And there's no dealing with credit. And that's what I like. And there are a lot of them out there. There are others where you can use them for food and restaurants, eating out in your area. And a lot of them are very local. So that's nice too because it supports small business. But yeah, it's very useful. So I just wanted to bring both of those up because if you are trying to save money, which is often a large part of a goal for people, I feel like it is very useful. So I did want to bring those up. But yeah, in terms of setting goals, I think something that is also important to keep in mind is like competition. Don't compete with other people. Okay. I wanted to make a video about this a long time ago and I never made it, but I'm making it now. I mean, not a video about it, but I am mentioning it. I am not like a highly competitive person. I don't particularly enjoy it. And a lot of people are competitive people. And I think it's important to know whether you are, whether you're not. And while everyone seemingly says that like competition will drive you to be better, it's like better in what? Yes, I'm leaving the silence there. Better in what? If I was competing with a neurosurgeon, okay, which some of my friends are, I went to school with engineers, what does that get me? I don't like engineering. I never wanted to be an engineer. So why would I compete with them? You understand? And I feel like I see that from people all the time. It's like going, the Super Bowl was last night. It's like going into a football game and saying, I'm going to be the best basketball player out here. Like, why? So I feel like that's what I see a lot in people. And when I find myself doing this, I pump the brakes really hard. So, yeah, like the person who you need to compete with is yourself. And that's not to say that you should be beating yourself up because, you used to be able to, like do back bends and now you can't do back bends easily. That's me as a personal example. It's not to say that, it's just to say that like when you like outpace yourself, that means you've actually grown. And it means you've grown in something you wanted to grow in because they're your goals for you. You know what I mean? Um, and it also is like a good, it's just like a more healthy measure of yourself. And it keeps you on a better track. I think it's just pretty much mostly positive. Whereas competing with other people, you don't even know what their goals are. Like I think people don't think about this, but it's like, I'm going to go back to the engineering example. I know people also who are engineers who also did not want to be engineers. Their parents made them be engineers. So let's say you're competing with that person. Let's say that person gets a B, okay, or a C, and then you get like a B plus, and you're like, "Ha, I beat them." But it's like that person's not even trying because they don't want to be there. They don't like it. So you aren't even necessarily hitting the highest standard because they're like self-sabotaging and you don't know it. Um, so I feel like I see it in people, and those are school examples are unfortunately the easiest examples. They're the clearest examples. But they I see them in other places for random things. People compete over all kinds of things. Who has what phone, who's wearing what clothes, who's going where, blah 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 blah. So, and I think you have to decide like if you're even in the place in your life where you want to do a certain thing, right? Like traveling, some people have a time when they travel and some people don't. It's like when people see me traveling, because like I do travel quite a bit now, it may seem like I'm traveling a lot, but I did spend the first 3 years of my life in Germany. I wasn't in America at all. So, like, some people are traveling, but they're maybe seeing family, or that's just like the lifestyle that they had. Military families move around. So we're used to moving. We don't function well actually, especially like if you were a family that was transferred a lot, you start to not function so great when you're stuck in one place for too long. um it's a weird thing, but that's just how it is. So I think you have to think of like, I need to be in one spot right now, that like so I can travel later, or I need to travel now so that I can see things while I can. You know what I mean? Those are two opposite things, but both of them will have a place in your life or a time in your life. So that's why I say like the competing to me is just like, it just kills me because like sometimes I see it and the person doesn't even realize they're doing it, and I'm like, oh gosh, like I don't think you're going in the direction you even think you want to go in. But that's why I would say like the little things, take the small steps, baby steps, learn things. I'm like for the community college. I mean, it depends, I guess, on the level, like how, good or bad your community colleges are, but I feel like you get quite a bit out of them to learn something at a basic level. So anything that you like don't have a background in, you have to start from zero. It's like just the only way. You can't jump in. So I didn't take a theater class here, I didn't take a film class because I already have a level that they wouldn't necessarily have at this, school level. But for piano, like I was starting out as a toddler, so that was that was just where I had to start out. And if you're trying to learn something new to move yourself forward, then you probably have to start out at that kind of level. And yeah, it's just useful because you get to move a little slower and it's not as expensive as like some of these other like workshoppy kind of things. But you still get to learn what you need to and like level up in a way that maybe you wouldn't have gotten to if you didn't think about it. You know what I mean? And then the setting goals, it's sort of the most difficult part of the whole process is deciding what you really want. And like everyone says, like it needs to be reassessed over time based on, what you're going through in life and what you actually are thinking about doing because it will change. And like that's perfectly fine. I mean, it honestly should change at least a little bit instead of you having the same goal from like, age 6 on. It's definitely natural for it to change. And I think that's what I have the hardest time with is like deciding what I want my goals to be because I can set like smaller goals, but maybe the smaller goals start to outpace the bigger goals. And then I'm not necessarily moving in the direction. Sorry, there's a bunny rabbit over to my left. And of course, I have to look at it because it's a bunny rabbit. Um, yeah, I do like animals a lot. So yeah, I think that's what is the hardest thing for me. But writing it down helps. I kind of write everything down. I just like write all of the things that I maybe would have as a goal down. And then I go back and I go, okay, no, do I really want this, or is this something that I would like do as like a hobby, like a one-off once every 6 months, And then I cross those things out. And then I go to the next level of things and I'm like, okay, let me try and rank like big goals versus small goals because there's also short-term goals versus long-term goals. And then I go through and I kind of rank big ones and small ones. And I know that for the big ones, you can only have a few big ones because they're big. And so I try and narrow those down to what I really want. And then I will keep a few small goals, especially if I feel like there's something that can be accomplished in under a year. Um, if I don't think they'll take me off of the track of the big goals. The thing about big goals is that they are slow. So you don't, at least for me personally, I don't want to feel like I'm doing nothing while I'm trying to work toward my big goals, right? Like if I had made, let's say I had done like I don't know how to put it, but let's say I had gone for like a musical, you know, with no dancing, no updated, let me say, no updated skills in dancing, no updated skills in singing, right? That would have been very tough. I would have been auditioning all the time and not getting cast, or maybe cast and then like absolutely miserable trying to catch up, any number of things. So that's kind of, and I'm not saying that's like a huge goal, but it's a goal, I guess, that I sort of set kind of recently, actually. But doing the little things like learning the sheet music, learning to dance, those like little goals were helpful in terms of figuring out, you know, little steps and feeling like I'm accomplishing little steps so that while I'm waiting for the big goal, using the example of musical, I'm not just doing nothing, or panicking because I'm like, I'm not reaching this goal. Uh, and sometimes I have like you may have like a really, really big goal that's something like a lot of people have the like big goal of buying a house, right? And so because that one is such a big goal and a financial commitment or whatever, although if you consider a different country or a less desirable area, you may be able to reach that goal faster. But as you are waiting for that goal, you don't necessarily want to not do anything. You know what I mean? Maybe you like are like, oh, I'm gonna paint my room because that's what I'm thinking about. And if you go, okay, I'm gonna paint my room, and then if you go, okay, I'm not painting my room. Well, let's say you meet the goal of the big house or getting the house or whatever. Well, maybe now you don't know how to paint because you skipped over that, but it would come in handy for property value if you could paint your own house, you know? So that's why I say like the little goals, you do have to keep a few of them. You don't want painting to over consume your life so that you can't ever buy the house because you've spent all your money on paint. But you sort of have to keep both running at the same time. I mean, life is a challenge. And it's sort of like, what do they say, spinning tops, and you kind of have to keep all of them in the air at the same time. So it is a complicated thing, but it's definitely worth it in the end. And if you focus on yourself, like being selfish sounds bad, but people who are self focused do at least sort of move toward what they want. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean you have to be like terrible about it. But it may come off to other people as not great, but if you're self-focused, then it will drive you more toward what you want, and then you won't feel as like pulled down by like all these other obligations. So yes, those are my thoughts on the matter. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys next week for another video like this, because like I said, I do like these long chats. I basically do them while I'm on my lunch between my like dance classes. So yeah, but today's going to be a long day for me because I do have rehearsal until 10 o'clock at night. But it's been very enjoyable and good for me to get back into something which I used to like a whole lot. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to go actually eat my lunch now. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon.